Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, X, Threads, and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode.
I have one question for you, Dan.
What?
Are you okay?
No.
No,
You know me.
That's evident because not only did you program in Come True for the first of the season, which was quite an intense process.
Yeah.
It was quite a daunting film to watch and disassemble.
Yep.
You've decided that we are doing Altered States for this episode.
You're welcome.
Am I?
Yes. It's I don't find it to be a complicated movie.
It's not as dense as Come True, no.
No.
I think the meaning is fairly transparent.
Yes. It wears its heart on its sleeve, I think.
Yeah, but there's a lot going on.
Yes, and it's odd.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
I can't think a better way to put it. It's an odd movie.
It's a deeply odd movie. One I'd never seen before.
That's
shockingly.
Crazy. That's crazy. Why hadn't you seen it? Was you aware of it when you were a kid?
No, not at all. It just was not on my radar.
Okay.
And I don't know. Like Ken Russell is a name that I've heard bandied about in film circles for years and years and years. But I went through his directorial credits in the what's the word? The
Internet.
Research process for this. On the internet. Yes, on the www. And I was kind of amazed at how few titles I was familiar with.
Yeah.
Because I count The Devils as one of my favourite films. Like at this point, it may have cracked the top 10. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I love it. I think it's such an intense, powerful movie.
Also odd.
Oh, yeah, deeply. But I get the impression from my reading that he did sort of make a habit of making really deeply odd, quite flamboyant is a word that's often used about his movies.
Very striking visuals, original, and just things that sometimes just don't make any sense.
Yeah.
but a lot of times they do.
I think they made sense to Ken Russell, and that's the important thing.
Yes. I mean, you made me watch The Devils.
You'd have to phrase it like that. I made you.
Well, I
treated you to a viewing of The Devils.
I may not have gotten around to it if it just left to my own devices. I probably would have watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 again.
Each to their own.
But I'm glad that I watched it, and it may be one of those that I should revisit at some point. Because now I'm sort of prepared for what it is.
That's interesting because I've been scheming on a reappraisals season.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have to put our heads together for that one.
But you loved it when you first saw it, so you can't reappraise it.
So The Devils is one that I didn't see until about, God, I don't even know, close to a decade ago. But again, I was quite a late comer to it, I think. And it was one of those experiences where, you get to a point where you feel like you've seen everything from a certain era that's any good. Yeah. And then you find this one sort of nugget hidden in a mountain of shit. And it's like, how the fuck did I not come to this film before now? This is incredible. And it was just a brilliant experience. I mean, that sort of era is my favourite. You know that. I'm very much into the whole 70s aesthetic and techniques and filming style. I love all of it. So I was kind of bound to love The Devils.
Yeah, it's definitely. Had I seen it without you, I probably would have thought, oh, you might. This is very bizarre. Sarah's going to love this.
This is weird as fuck.
That would be my thought process. Yeah, odd movie. There's a crocodile in it for some reason.
Why not?
Maybe my rewatch should just be all centered around the question of whether or not I can answer why crocodile.
I am going to tell you now, give up.
Okay.
Don't go in for a second viewing with that clouding your mind.
All right. Okay. All right.
Maybe just don't ask why at all in reference to that film.
Have you... He also did Tommy. And
I've seen Tommy.
Is that The Who?
It's so that's the only reason I've seen Tommy is because when I was probably about 14, 15, I became a bit obsessed with The Who.
Mm.
And I believe I owned it. It's a very, very strange film. It's effectively a musical, so you'd hate it.
Right.
Often called a rock opera.
Yeah, it's not. Doesn't sound like it's up my street, really. I haven't seen it and definitely have probably tried to avoid it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big The Who guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird because I also was going through his filmography on the internet, and I noticed the two that I can pick out is The Devils because I've seen it, and Tommy, and there's not much else. The one that I knew was Altered States.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the only other one that I've seen is Lair of the White Worm. What?
What's that about?
It's not what you think.
Oh, I thought it was a sex thing.
I mean, it's not a stretch with Ken Russell, is
Right,
it?
everything's
It
a
is
sex
often a sex thing with Ken Russell.
Yeah.
No, it's based on a book by Bram Stoker.
Oh, the Dracula guy.
Yeah,
Right.
He didn't just write Dracula, it turns out.
Yeah.
Bram, yeah.
Oh, Bram, you finished that book yet? I'm halfway through. Piss off.
I believe that's a reenactment of an exact conversation that happened, featuring Bram Stoker's mum.
Butler.
Butler. Oh, you think he had a butler?
Yeah, no. Why would the butler be angry at him? The butler would be angry because the butler would get fired. He's definitely more of an authority figure. Yeah, let's go with mum.
Yeah, okay.
Mrs.
I'm glad we've cleared that up.
Mrs. Stoker.
So that's the only other one that I've seen, and I don't remember a great deal about it, actually. It's probably due a rewatch, but I do remember it's sort of very, again, flamboyant, a little bit camp, very big, theatrical, much like all of Ken Russell's work, I'm led to believe. So yeah, Altered States. I'm very sad it's taken me this long to actually watch it.
Yeah, because first time watch for you the other night. I watched it relatively recently, about 4 years ago, I would say.
How did you come upon it?
I think I was always aware of it. Now, it may have been one that I saw when I was very, very young, because it did seem very familiar.
Okay.
But there's a few movies of that era that I sort of get mixed up. But I didn't remember much of it when I watched it in 2020, I think. But I remember watching it and thinking, oh, you would probably quite like this.
Did you?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe later on, I thought that. But you procured it. You bought it.
I bought it like probably over a year ago now, and it's just been sitting in the to-watch pile.
I blew the dust off it.
You did? It's so embarrassing. Yeah. That I buy movies, I hoard movies and don't watch them for a year plus, and B, that I never dust.
Yeah. Have you noticed that I try and pick movies that are in the to-watch pile?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get through it eventually.
So if you were alive on Christmas Day in 1980, would you have gone to see this on opening day?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Can you imagine? Why did Warner Brothers release this on Christmas Day?
I don't really know, because who's going, oh, Merry Christmas, love, here's a psychedelic treatise on the human condition and what it means to be alive. Fancy a turkey sandwich? What the fuck? Although the message ultimately is kind of the same as most Christmas movies, so
give me a present.
No, love is all you need.
Love is all you need. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it makes me think of Love Actually. What a beautiful film that was.
That's what I think.
Garbage.
Sorry if that blew out the levels there.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would have gone to see this at the cinema, I think. It came out a few years before I was born, so unfortunately I missed out on it. But released Christmas Day, I think it shat the bed because it made...
Yeah.
The budget was $15 million and I think it grossed about 20, I heard.
Okay.
But I think that's because you released it on Christmas Day.
Yeah. People were busy, you know?
I mean, the only film that you can release on Christmas Day is Avatar. Because people will just go and watch that no matter what.
There's no accounting for taste.
No. But I can't get past that. I can't get past that someone made that decision. A Christmas themed movie, is it?
It was a different time. There were a lot more drugs in the mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. Yeah, I love the fact that it was released on Christmas. If it's released on Christmas now, I'll be like, great.
Yeah.
It's not some bullshit with a talking dog or a cartoon man. Like, it's the thing. It's a proper movie.
Yeah.
I get to see it on Christmas Day. Brilliant.
Is that how you would spend your day then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is the cinema even open on Christmas Day?
No.
Oh, well, they'd have a problem then, wouldn't they?
Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't think so. It feels odd.
Yeah.
That the Christmas cinema would be open. The cinema would be open on Christmas Day. But maybe it's different in the States.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are open here and I've never looked. We should check that out.
We should. So, I mean, it came out in 1980, but really it's the 70s, right?
Well, based on book that was written in the 70s.
Yeah. The book was only written, was it a couple of years before the movie was even made?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Paddy Chayefsky...
Not his real name.
No, not his real name. He had written the screenplay for Network.
Right.
Which
okay.
I believe which is a brilliant, brilliant movie. And I think it won some Oscars. So he wanted to make this movie, Altered States. But I believe he approached someone from Warner Brothers, not just
not just Derek down the pub.
He approached someone at Warner Brothers and said, I want to make this movie. And they said, well, why don't you write a book? And then you might have a better chance of getting it made. So he wrote the book.
Okay.
Adapted it into the screenplay. And there we go.
That's just writing a screenplay with extra steps.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's how things were done back then?
I don't really know. I guess it depends who's in charge.
Fair enough.
And I guess they just thought this is such a crazy idea that it's probably going to shit the bed. So we should... and I don't know how well the book did. I gather it must have done well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered making it.
Well enough, yeah.
But so is the only people that saw this movie at the cinema is people that read book?
I have no idea. Yeah. I only read a little bit about the reception of it, and that was just kind of that it was considered a flop, which is a real shame. Although it has kind of been embraced more in recent years.
Yeah.
I would still call it a cult movie.
Yeah. Well, good movies just last.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like as much as I enjoy talking about the box office, how much it cost and how much it made, and it's a good indicator of what might get made next. It is totally irrelevant. Really,
it's meaningless when it comes to the quality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some of the biggest flops of all time are some of the best movies ever made. Apart from
The Thing.
The Thing. Well, yeah, not Battleship. So it's kind of irrelevant, but I wish it had done better. Just because I think for such an original, bizarre idea, had this done well, I feel like we would have gotten more of, not just this film, but films like this. We would have got more of this kind of thing.
I was thinking about this, actually. Are there any films that come to mind when you think of Altered States?
I have a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
The film reminds me of other films in certain ways. There's some of the trippy scenes. I think an obvious one is 2001.
Okay, yeah.
Some of the visuals in that. I mean, I'm thinking about whenever there's people taking mushrooms in movies, I'm thinking about Hunter S. Thompson. So Fear and Loathing
Yeah.
in Las Vegas.
Well,
Did this remind you of anything?
I struggled, to be honest, but something that sprang to mind, not to talk about David Cronenberg 2 Weeks on the Bounce, but Videodrome.
Oh, I was going to say The Fly.
Were you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Why Videodrome?
Because I think it explores some similar ideas. I think there is some very similar body horror. I don't know. I think they would make like a cool double bill. There is some overlap. When was the last time you watched Videodrome?
Years ago.
Years ago.
1992.
Wow, really?
I like something like that, yeah.
Oh, that needs a rewatch.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to have to rewatch that.
I saw a bunch of Cronenberg movies when I was a kid, and I haven't revisited a lot of them.
Okay.
The Fly is one that I have seen a lot. But I was thinking about The Fly when we were watching this as well, just because crazy scientists putting himself in harm's way for the sake of research.
Yeah, going into a weird pod.
Yeah.
Coming out different.
Exactly, yeah. Like a transformation.
Yeah.
Also,
kind of weird metamorphosis.
Yeah, precisely. There's a lot of crossover there, I think. And I think because of the transformation scene, which we'll probably talk about, it made me think of American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
Because of the techniques used in that, and the transformation scene in that remind me a lot of William Hurt turned into Monkey Man scene.
Okay. What about when he turns into the worm from Freaked near the end?
Yeah.
It's like 50% the worm from Freaked and 50% Belial from Basket Case, but
Yeah.
lumpier than both somehow.
He turns into a molecule.
It's horrific.
Molecule worm. but and that makes me think of The Fly too.
Okay.
When Bartok turns into the dog man worm thing. Yeah, body horror. There's some body horror in this, which is.
I wasn't really expecting that, you know.
No, I don't suppose that you are. It happens in such a bizarre way that you've not seen before.
Yeah.
It is quite surprising.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it for that. I think it's just so unique, man. It's like if you're not expecting it, it's just what the fuck? Like what was going through your mind when we were? Because I feel like this movie moves quite quickly.
It does.
I think it's quite a pacey, quite a brisk film. They cram a lot into a relatively short running time. They
what is
cover
the
a lot
runtime?
Of years as well. An hour 40 or something.
Hour 40.
45, something like that.
Yeah, it spans at least a decade, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know that, or maybe I'm getting muddled up with the actress's real age, because Blair Brown was 34.
Right.
And I know the first time she meets Jessup, she mentions that she's 24. So I think it's about, let's call it a decade.
Yes, it's definitely an amount of years.
Yeah.
Several years.
So what you were asking me, what went through my head? I don't really know. I think I was just like, I was probably doing my WTF expression through most of the running time, particularly when he kind of devolves into early man and starts frolicking around the Bronx Zoo.
Yeah.
I think I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? I was unprepared. I was unprepared for this. I kind of strapped myself in for something psychedelic and a little bit weird, because that was the impression I'd got. That's what I'd read about it. But it went to places I did not expect.
Yeah. And the fact
in the best possible way.
Agreed when I first saw this as well. And I mean, it's called Altered States.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that kind of play on consciousness and what you certainly are expecting to see some weird shit, but you're not necessarily expecting any of it to be real within the world of the movie.
Yeah. Because I mean, the premise is just that he takes drugs, sits in an isolation tank and hallucinates. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't anticipate that it would sort of cross over into the real world at all.
Would you do this experiment?
No.
Have you ever been in an isolation tank?
Never. I would go in an isolation tank sober.
But with no mushrooms?
No mushrooms.
Okay.
I've never done mushrooms. I don't think doing mushrooms for the first time and then going in an isolation tank is the way to do it, quite frankly.
Don't do it.
No.
What about dark therapy? You heard of this?
No.
Where you just go and stay in a dark room for 2 days.
For 2 days?
Yeah, like a hotel, and they bring you your food and stuff, but you're just in the dark.
And you've got to feel around for your food?
Yeah.
What if you put your hand in it? No, I'm out.
I'm
I'm out on the basis of that.
I'm guessing that they're not going to fucking give you soup, or anything like that. It's going to be like a bread roll, isn't it? Or something that you can easily
Bread,
eat
you
in.
say?
Yeah.
I'm back in.
Bread. Oh, bread. That's all we need to bribe you, is it?
Give me that gluten.
Would you do that, dark therapy for a couple of days?
For 2 days?
Yeah.
No, I think I'd go insane.
Oh, I'd give it a go, I think.
I'd do it for maybe a day. I'd do
Yeah.
it for a shorter period of time. I think 2 days I would go mental.
It's pretty crazy to think, because it must just seem like the longest time.
Yeah,
as well
that
while
would
you're
feel
in
like forever. Who's doing this? Where is this happening?
I don't know. Like, I'll Google it after and try and find somewhere, because I'm definitely into it. I did an isolation tank a little while ago, and that was great.
I mean, I'm all for it if it means I get 2 days on my own.
Yeah, all right.
You have at it.
But yeah, he's doing these sessions in an isolation tank. He's got his mate with him, Bob
Balaban,
Bob
looking
Balaban.
more hirsute than I've ever seen him.
He's friend of Eddie, and he's kind of overseeing the experiments.
Mm-hmm. Bob Balaban's underrated. I didn't know he'd been acting for that long, to be honest.
I didn't know who he was.
Did you not?
I looked on Letterboxd and saw that he's in everything.
He's in everything,
Yeah.
and he's directed as well.
Oh, all right.
He made that movie Parents, didn't he? That weird one with Randy Quaid.
Not familiar.
Oh, that's a pretty cool kind of another cult movie.
Okay.
We should watch that at some point. Yeah, he's kind of a legend, but I've never seen him with that much facial hair or hair on his head, for that matter. He was kind of great. Because really, there's only like 4 characters in this worth mentioning, right? We've got William Hurt, obviously, Blair Brown as the love interest, Bob Balaban as his friend, and Charles Hayde
As Mason.
Andrew
Barrymore as child.
Andrew, yes. Yeah, this was William Hurt's and Drew Barrymore's film debut.
Yeah. Oh. Also, this is our 8th George Gaines movie.
Who's George Gaines?
Commandant Lassard.
8th?
Yeah.
Oh, 7 Police Academy movies. Oh my God, I was going to say. Who was he?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing him in the film, but when I was doing my research, I think I saw it on IMDb on Letterboxd and thought, what?
No way.
Yeah.
He must have been like a bit player.
A blink and you'll miss him.
Yeah. Charles Hayde drove me insane because I spent the entire runtime going, where the fuck do I know you from? And I was deeply embarrassed to realise after the fact that it was Nightbreed, which I've seen more times than I care to admit.
Yeah.
But that's the only other thing I know him from.
He was great in this. I thought he was really a lot of fun.
Yes.
And that voice that you desperately needed to be against what Eddie's doing and be kind of the voice of reason, because Bob Balaban's just going along with it. He's like, oh, well, I don't agree with it, but I can't stop him, so I may as well collect the data. And Mason's just like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I've written a book.
Except in a Southern American accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very theatrical. And I enjoyed that performance a hell of a lot. I was kind of shocked that this was William Hurt's first movie, actually, because he's great in this.
He's fantastic in this.
Do you know if he was doing theatre or anything before this?
I believe so. Stage plays in the 70s.
That makes more sense then.
And then got this one. I think Ken Russell kind of inherited this project while it quite a long way into its pre-production.
Yeah, I read that he sort of jokes that he was like the 17th option to direct, like after everybody else had turned it down.
Yeah, and I think with that, he also inherited the cast and a screenplay that he was not allowed to change in any way. Okay,
I read something a little bit different. I read the same thing about the screenplay, but I read that William Hurt was on the fence about doing the project. And then he had his first meeting with Ken Russell. They sort of had a weird standoff, and apparently for the first half an hour, neither of them would sit down. But then Ken Russell decided to sit down on a radiator, so William Hurt sat down on a chair. They both relaxed a little bit, and William Hurt saw that Ken Russell's pants had ridden up a little bit and that he was wearing Betty Boop socks.
Yeah.
And apparently it was at that point he was like, I'm down. Yeah, I'll do this project. I don't know how much truth there is to that.
I mean, personally, I would read the script, and if it was good, then I would do it. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, he was very passionate about the script because
Oh, yeah.
I think he was sort of a proponent in getting it made. He was really championing the script. He just didn't necessarily want to be in it.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But I'm very glad he was, because he was brilliant.
He was really good. And I think this may be the way it was shot. There are certain scenes that are quite long takes, and there's some quite nice dynamic camera movement, and the way that it moves around the sets and follows the characters is done really well. And I think the nature of the long takes probably makes it feel more like a play.
Yeah.
And you're able to move through the whole scene, through the various emotions that you need to be expressing. So I don't know if it maybe just suited him. Like, I imagine that doing this as your first movie is probably quite a good transition.
I guess so. Or a massive baptism of fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, in some ways it probably was a baptism of fire, but just mostly from the perspective of being able to shoot large chunks of it in sequence. So I'm guessing that, it probably was shot out of sequence, as most movies are, but he could do longer scenes, and particularly the more important scenes when he's meeting Blair and they're having discussions about what he's doing, and his total disinterest for any type of home life. Doesn't care about his children.
No. Does he ever... He doesn't say that he loves his wife until the end, does he?
No. And, that's obviously his character arc. That's the point of his...
Yeah, that's his journey.
That's the thing that we're shown 25 minutes into the film. And then for the next hour and 10 minutes, we're going, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
You will.
Do you think the long takes were a stylistic choice, or do you think some of that was kind of because they were limited by editing back then was so much more laborious than it is digitally now. So I think it's always hard to tell.
Whatever happens, it really worked for this film, I think.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that before, actually. Like, if you just shoot larger chunks, then there's less editing.
Yeah. I can't imagine old school editing, cutting and pasting, and just, what a task. Herculean task. And some people still choose to make movies on film.
Yeah, you're right, they do. Yeah.
Bold choice. So apparently I did read that during filming, all of the cast did try the isolation tank for a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously not on drugs. And one of them did report sort of hallucinating a little bit. So I don't know how essential the drugs are to that process. Blair Brown just said it was very nice and peaceful.
Agree. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I've done one, and you just lay there for an hour and it's lovely.
Yeah.
But you're not tripping. You're not seeing any hallucinations. That's not how they work. Unless there's acid in the isolation tank with you.
I'm not well versed enough to know.
But the earliest sort of things that he sees, his visions, I think, are with his dad. He sees his dad dying. He's dressed as a schoolboy. That sticks in my mind very vividly. That's bizarre. And he's trying to hand a piece of cloth with the face of Jesus on it to his father.
Oh, yeah. And it falls and covers his dad's face.
Yeah. And it gets thrown onto the floor and then catches fire.
Yeah.
And then he turns into a man with a goat head and 9 eyes and gets nailed to a cross like Jesus.
Oh, yeah. The weird goat with so many eyes.
Yeah.
That was strange.
I don't understand what that was. I'm guessing that goats has got something to do with the Bible.
Well, there's a lot of religious iconography in the hallucination scenes.
That's why that's why I'm asking that, really. Obviously, he was on a crucifix at the time, so there's that.
Well, yeah, the goat was crucified. And goats typically represent the devil.
Okay.
Do you know what I find funny? I think goats are adorable. I think they're one of my favourite animals. I like them because they're jerks, but also because they've got a lot of character. And I often wondered, like, why they were chosen as, like, the avatar for the devil in religious iconography. And then I saw a Damascus goat. And let me tell you, it is the most horrifying creature I have ever seen in my entire life. And now I get it.
Yeah.
I completely understand it. And I've gone off goats a little bit.
Okay.
Google it. And I'm so sorry. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Goat with 7 eyes, crucified. I think I wrote that down in my notes, actually. That really struck me as being, I don't know. I wasn't expecting the religious angles in this movie.
Yeah, okay. Even though you'd seen The Devils.
Yeah, even though I'd seen the devils.
Because the religion stuff is not necessarily in the script other than, well, I suppose it is, because William Hurt's character says that he grew up as, is it Catholic?
Yeah, so Ken Russell was Catholic himself. He embraced Catholicism in, I think, 1950. Had quite an interesting life. He was in the RAF, signed up to the RAF as a teenager. And also the Navy.
At the same time?
It made it sound like they were concurrent, but I don't think that's possible. I'm not sure.
They based the action figures G.I. Joe off of Ken Russell.
Yeah. Did you see Ken Russell?
No.
They did not base G.I. Joe on Ken Russell.
No, not with those Betty Boop socks, they wouldn't anyway.
Bless him. Yeah, so he became Catholic in 1950, and he described the devils as being the final nail in the coffin for Catholicism, as far as he was concerned. I couldn't find too much more information about that, but he definitely had beef with the church for some reason, and he abandoned his faith.
All right.
So definitely by this point, he was an ex-Catholic.
I mean, he's definitely going to throw some religious iconography in there.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a part of his identity for a couple of decades, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's so rich in terms of, I don't know, like existence.
The David Cronenberg movie.
No, existence, not existence. Why does David Cronenberg keep coming up lately?
I don't know. It was like we think about him way too much, I'm guessing.
We need to program in one of his films and just get it all out, clearly. Yeah, just in terms of, I mean, so the film is populated by entirely white people.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're in a Western country, and the dominant religion would have been a branch of Christianity. So, and back during a time where it was more commonplace to go to church on Sundays as well. I think more people were faith-based during that time. So it makes sense that the questions around existence are also tied to questions around faith and a higher power.
Yeah, they sort of, it's hand in hand, isn't it? Because if you're questioning existence, what that really means is, to me, is you're questioning meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people look to religion to figure out that meaning.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, lesser these days, obviously.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of the same with cults. I feel like anything that's like that is a search for meaning.
Well, yeah, anything that promises you answers.
Yeah, and that's essentially what was interesting about Eddie, is because he's gone from this religious upbringing to what he's doing now. Really, it's the same thing.
In a way,
in a way.
Yeah.
And it's about the letting go of it, and you're not gonna find out, and if you do find out, it might do you some harm. Whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, what's
Maybe
the line?
You'll turn into a worm.
Yeah. What's the line at the end of the film? I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like the only truth is that there is no truth.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. He says that he experienced nothingness or something.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, that's what he figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
None of it matters.
I mean, and that's when he decided, yeah, I've had enough of this. But I probably would have knocked it on the head when I turned into a monkey.
What, he'd forgotten large chunks of it. He remembered tearing into a sheep.
Yeah, he remembered enough of it for me to go, yeah, you don't do that again.
Yeah. You almost killed a man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You were running around the Bronx Zoo with your junk swinging around.
Yeah. Just throwing rocks at dogs.
Yeah. Oh,
swinging around.
Doing parkour.
Yeah. That was definitely not William Hurt in a furry costume.
No way. No way. Whoever it was really nailed the movements, though. That was quite impressive.
Yeah. And before Terry Notary's time.
Yeah. The late 1970s answer to Terry Notary. Yeah. Maybe it was his dad.
Maybe it was his dad. The family business.
Being monkeys. Can you imagine? I love that.
And also make a reality TV show about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping up with the chimps.
Yeah.
Sod the Kardashians. That's the show I want.
Just say notary or something.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll workshop it a little bit. Um, obviously, I keep talking about it, but this came out in 1980. But I really do consider this to be a movie of the 70s. Kind of in the same way as The Shining, because The Shining came out in 1980, but it's such a 70s movie.
Well, you got to remember, it was conceived and pre-production, and a lot of the work is done by then, and even the thoughts and ideas that you carry out in 1980, early 1980 during production are from ideas that you had in the 70s. So it's still a 70s movie. It takes a few years to get out of a decade, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, though. Like all the fashions, all the stylistic choices, they are very 70s. So that's kind of what I mean when I say it's a 70s, 80s movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what else has just occurred to me that sort of has some through lines? Something that we covered in season 3?
Okay.
The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah, I thought about that too, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was a similar theme in that the lesson that the main character learns, that, it's more about family and the people you love than the pursuit of something, whether that's money and fame or
water,
yeah, hash browns,
yeah,
or God, or the search for what William Hurt was doing in this was the search for meaning and the reason for existence and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's about not wasting your time on things that are not going to make a difference, I guess, and just enjoying the time that you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that too, interestingly.
Huh. I think you could argue that Ken Russell and Nicholas Roeg were sort of similar filmmakers in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think Nicholas Roeg was a lot more restrained.
Yeah.
But tonally, they've got some similarities. Did you know that Ken Russell made it like his mission to he made a bunch of weird sort of semi-fictionalized adaptations of famous composers' lives and their sex lives?
No. What? No.
Yeah, look, I did some reading. He sounds like a strange dude, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a bit of a perv, allegedly.
Allegedly. As long as everyone consented to it.
Oh, it all sounded perfectly legal, yeah. I'm not casting aspersions.
No.
Just sounded like an interesting dude, is all.
Yeah.
I thought that was a strange addition to his resume. What were some of your favourite parts of this film then? In terms of the visuals, particularly.
In terms of the visuals, okay. Yeah. I really loved the nine-eyed goat man. I thought that was really cool. Mm-hmm. I loved when he first goes to when they go down to Mexico.
Yeah.
And the really cool shot of them that you pointed out, that's a brilliant shot.
Yes.
Of them going into the cave that looks like a vagina.
So I did a bit of digging on that, apparently. The taking it back to the biblical iconography. So you see Mount Ararat pop up quite a lot in the hallucinations. And apparently that looks a lot like the cave opening at Mount Ararat. And that was the first mountain that was mentioned in the Bible. So it has very close ties. Right. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. Because it's stuff like that you wouldn't even notice.
No.
Like, you don't know unless you know. Mm. So it's cool that filmmakers go the extra mile.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that shot too.
And I love all of the visuals in that scene as well, where they go into the cave and he drinks his blood mushrooms.
Yes.
And he just has the night of his life. And I'm just so jealous.
Would you do that?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Just follow some dude to the middle of nowhere.
Fuck yes.
With these like old shaman dudes.
I mean, I would check the reviews on TripAdvisor first. But yeah, definitely. What an experience. When are you ever going to experience that? Ever?
Well, that would be the last thing I experience. That would be how I die. You know my luck. There'd be missing posters the day after. I had a feeling you'd say yes, though. Something else that I really want to talk about. You mentioned it at the start, but I definitely want to get back to this. How much do you know about the I don't even know how to phrase it, the falling out between Ken Russell and Paddy Chayefsky?
I know that Paddy Chayefsky was annoyed at Ken Russell because he wasn't executing his vision in the way that he thought it should be executed.
Okay. Was it his insistence that not a word of the dialogue be changed?
I think that was contractual.
Was it?
Well,
Okay.
but I guess based on his
Yeah. Because I know that being a contractual obligation pissed Ken Russell off.
Yeah, it wound him up, and I think Paddy Chayefsky was probably just being a bit too precious about his material. You just fucking direct it yourself, then, mate. Yourself.
Yeah, that was the impression I got as well. Like, I don't know, maybe Ken Russell was a little bit difficult to work with. Maybe he was a bit belligerent. Maybe he wanted more freedom. But yeah, I definitely got the impression that the author was maybe being a little bit delicate.
Yeah, but he got barred from the set.
Did he?
So it all worked out in the end. Yeah, but so Ken Russell was annoyed at the dialogue because he couldn't change anything, and he thought it was total nonsense. He thought it was absolute bullshit. So the story goes.
I quite like the dialogue, actually.
I think it's fucking great. So he apparently chose to shoot a lot of it where people were talking over each other, and you can't quite pick out what people were saying.
I love that I said that over you.
Yeah. And then there's scenes of them having a conversation when they're eating and things like that. So quite a lot of the dialogue is hard to decipher in some places.
Right. Okay.
And I've heard that was him taking a dump on Chayefsky because he didn't like the dialogue.
Interesting.
But it really works for me.
Yeah.
In the film. The fact that you're having to sort of try and really concentrate, and it helps when you're watching it with subtitles as well. But when people are talking over each other, you're trying to pick out what the important parts are of that conversation. And it struck me that that's kind of what this film is about, is trying to find the meaning in a loud world that's got so many things happening all around you at once.
Particularly in this day and age.
Yeah, exactly. It's just getting noisier, and to try and pick one thing to focus on and concentrate on that is very difficult. And I kind of thought that not being able to quite hear some of the dialogue was really fitting in with the theme of the movie as well. So I thought it was. I'm guessing it wasn't really intentional, because if he was just doing it as a fuck you, then it can't have been. But I don't know.
I like that observation though.
Maybe it was intentional on his part, but he just wanted to tell Chayefsky it was because I fucking hate you. I don't know. Who knows?
It doesn't really matter whether it was intentional or not, but it definitely works. I do like that observation.
Yeah, it works
you're
for
bang
me.
on.
It works for me.
Yeah. Interesting.
But the conversations that they do have and you can hear, I just think are fascinating. And it helps that it's about things that I find deeply interesting, about evolution and how the universe was formed, and trying to figure out the answers. And it's a rabbit hole that I've been down a few times in my life, and had to kind of try and draw myself back out of it, because you're never going to figure it out.
It can be a dangerous and obsessive road.
Yeah, it can be. And you can see how people would become obsessed with it, because it's the thing. It's the big thing. That if you solve that, you can solve anything. So I get the appeal. But yeah, and I think all of the dialogue works really well in kind of showing us who Eddie is and what his pursuit is all about. And also, I really like his back and forth with Blair Brown's character as well. And I think she's really great on screen with William Hurt also. Yeah. She really, they have a good kind of, I would have liked some more scenes maybe between them, of them really sort of meeting of minds, because she said she was also a genius. So I would like to have seen some more of her being part of the experiments or something.
Yeah, I feel like her inclusion almost seemed incidental, especially in the middle chunk of the movie, because she disappears for a large chunk of the running time, if I remember rightly. And then when she comes back, she's been away and she's been studying primates somewhere. And really the only reason that scene happens is because he wants to listen to some of her recordings. Yeah.
Did you record any baboons?
Yeah.
And he was asking for that recording to play into the tank, right?
Well, yeah, to sort of and to cross-reference.
Oh, right.
With his memory as well, I think. But yeah, so I would have liked it if she'd had a bit of a beefier role.
I think I would have enjoyed seeing them having more of a conversation, some more interesting scientific based conversations throughout the film. But also, I can see that it is about William Hurt's character, and it is also about him kind of pushing his family to the sidelines.
Yeah, true.
Until he sort of learns his lesson at the end of the movie. So the fact that, and I think you pointed this out in the film, where's his fucking kids?
Yeah.
Where are they? That's kind of the point, is the fact that he's he wasn't really interested in marriage anyway. He obviously wasn't really interested in kids. He finds probably that whole thing. He has that whole speech about pointless traditions.
Yeah, he's very emotionally distant.
Yeah, yeah. So I get that she wasn't much part of it because of it. It was more based on his character and his character arc, and that's fine. But I just would have enjoyed seeing more from her character because I enjoyed her so much. And maybe be careful what you wish for. But I just think that that would have been interesting. I think.
And it's not often I say this about any film, but I could have watched. I don't know. I would have liked to see maybe a 2-hour version of this.
Yeah, 2 hour would be okay. Yeah.
I think much beyond that, and you perhaps verging on too much.
I think I do like the running time because it's definitely one that I'll probably be happy to just slap this on at any point.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I breezed by just when we watched it the other day. I was like, wow, that was so fast.
It's pacey for sure.
Yeah. And it's about really big ideas, but it's quite simple in its execution. And I think that is maybe because of the marriage of styles between Chayefsky and Ken Russell, as much as of a disaster it might have seemed on set, I think their two approaches to it came together really, really well.
Agreed.
And the way that I assume Ken Russell made a lot of the visuals, he came up with a lot of the ideas. I'm guessing, I don't know, who knows, it might have been someone else on the crew. But I feel like all of his visuals, for the most part, really went with the story really well and were, I don't know, for instance, I wasn't asking why there was a crocodile in it. It all made sense within the context of the film.
Was there a crocodile in it?
I mean, yeah, there probably was.
Was it the same crocodile from The Devils?
But,
I agree.
Yeah, those merging of styles, I think, probably why it works so well, I would say. Maybe if you lean too far Ken Russell's way, it becomes too weird and abstract for me to decipher.
Too psychedelic.
And maybe if it's Chayefsky's piece, he just made an autobiography of John C. Lilly.
Yeah. We haven't even mentioned him.
No. Who the book was based on.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that he was not only who the book was based on, because he did experiments with a friend where they took hallucinogens and got in the isolation tank. He was also the inventor of the isolation tank.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. And there's been at least one more film based on him.
Mm.
That's crazy.
He carried out experiments to try and figure out how dolphins communicate, I read.
Oh.
And I wondered if, when I read that, I thought, is he in a tank and making dolphin noises? And I thought, is that offensive to dolphins? If you're copying their accents. But yeah, crazy experiments. But, we got the isolation tank out of it, and this movie.
Do you think he was a bit of a lunatic secretly?
Yeah. Of course he was.
Oh, R.I.P. John C. Lilly. You'd have loved Sequest DSV.
All pioneers are crazy. Okay.
To some degree, yeah. I'll give you that. I also read that Ken Russell himself did mushrooms for the first time, either before or during the making of this movie.
He hadn't done any before he made The Devils?
Apparently not.
Wow.
Or unless he was fibbing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Imagine making The Devils just completely sober.
As just a normal person.
Just totally straight.
I'm a normal person. I've never done any drugs and I'm going to make The Devils. Mate, don't do any. They're not for you.
Yeah. But interestingly, or perhaps not, the first and maybe only time he did them, he had a really bad trip.
Oh. Well, yeah, because all that fucking weird shit's in his brain.
Yeah. If that's his brain on a normal day.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I think it was always going to go badly for you.
Yeah, they're not. Any hallucinogens, not for Ken Russell.
Anybody's brain who comes up with the infamous rape of Christ scene has been long buried, perhaps never to see the light of day again. Don't do drugs. Sound advice. Apparently he was also often drunk during the making of the movie.
Oh yeah.
But he was English, so...
Yeah, we've got a bit of a reputation for drinking, haven't we? He says as he's drinking
a beer in hand.
A beer, yeah.
We do, yeah. We like a bit of a drink. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that trivia came from an American.
Yeah, probably.
who, I mean, I don't know. My understanding is from things like Beverly Hills 90210, where they always had like the episode of, oh my God, such and such had a beer. We must get them to rehab.
Yeah, intervention.
Yeah. So, maybe you just had a little sly one every now and again.
Yeah, it's fine. A bit of Dutch courage. You got a big day ahead. You got a fucking 28-hour shoot day. You got to have a little shot of whiskey. That's fine. Like, come on.
He was
Whatever gets
lucid
you through.
enough. He was lucid enough to make this
Just
spectacular movie.
Don't operate any heavy machinery, and you're fine.
Don't get in the isolation tank. You might drown.
Yeah, don't do that either.
But yeah, so a lot's been said about interpretations of this movie. And I have to say, I think one of the reasons I was finding this show so daunting, intimidating, is that I think I was overthinking it.
Yeah, I can see why you would.
Because there's so much going on, visually and otherwise.
And it like we said earlier, it spans such a long time as well.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of confusion is going, right, so where are they now?
That's it. Like the first kind of half an hour really confused me because I hadn't realised that we'd moved on at such a pace. It took me a minute. But yeah, so a lot's been said about it potentially being like a Jekyll and Hyde type story, which I can see.
Yeah.
Even a Mary and Jesus story, which I don't really get, because if it's about Mary and Jesus, like Mary was his mum.
I was going to say he was son of Mary, isn't he?
This isn't Trapped season. There's no incest here.
No.
We've moved on. So yeah, I don't know if that's genuine. I don't know how they were getting that reading on it. Another one was Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus and Eurydice. Okay. But again, I think the simplest interpretation is probably the best and maybe also most accurate. I mean, the author himself said it was simply a love story.
Yeah. It is. It's a man realising that all you need is love.
Yeah.
Basically.
And a bit of money.
Yeah, a bit of money helps, obviously. But it's ideally you introduce balance, with these things. But he'd gone too far in a direction of doing mushrooms and laying in a tank for 7 hours.
And being a monkey.
Yeah. He went full method.
He did.
Imagine if Jared Leto had remake with Jared
Leto.
Leto.
Don't even.
No.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as you said his name. No. Horrifying. Can you imagine?
What would he be doing? Imagine the news reports that would come off that set.
Oh, God.
Jared Leto defecating on the cast members. Shitting in his hand and throwing it at Blair Brown, because it's a legacy sequel, by the way.
Okay, yeah, of course it is.
And he's the kid. He's like brother of Drew Barrymore or something.
David Gordon Green to direct. Oh no, he's run out of favour at this point, hasn't he?
Yeah, no one liked those Halloween movies, did they? I liked the first one.
Some of them were okay.
And I thought the last one was all right.
Anyway. Just not the one with Anthony Michael Hall.
No. But looked great, though. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
This is not a Halloween podcast.
Not yet. But yeah, I don't really have a great deal more to say. I think I'm so glad that you chose this film. Despite being so intimidated, I'm really glad that I finally watched it, because I might have put it off for another 18 months. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you can count on me to pick watch pile movies in my seasons. But I was a little bit worried that maybe I'd tried to crowbar this into dream season.
You had. That was going to be how I wrap this episode up.
Okay.
Why is it here? Explain yourself.
It's not about dreams, is it?
No.
It's it's loose, but my take on it is that dreams are an altered state of consciousness.
Oh my God. That's so tenuous.
But like, what are dreams really? They're thoughts, but when you're dreaming, you think that they're real. So it's, in a way, they're real when you're experiencing them. It's more the kind of the perceptions of reality.
Yeah. Okay.
That I'm the angle that I was coming from here, and also William Hurt's character dreams of being the best scientist. So he has dreams of becoming really good.
I think it's more of an aspiration.
Yeah.
This is an aspiration season.
So it doesn't really fit in dream season. And I was a bit worried about it, but then I thought, fuck it, I don't care. It's my season. I don't give a shit.
Then you thought, I'm a grown up. I make the rules around here.
Yeah. Well, I'd make my own mistakes, thank you. But it wasn't mistakes. We got to watch Altered States, and it's a very good movie, and I enjoyed watching it very, very much.
Yeah.
Just not about dreams per se. But like I said, that was the angle that I was coming from.
I get that. Okay. Quick note about the ending. Does the ending fully work for you, and what do you think about the effects work? Because it was one of the earliest instances of CGI, I guess.
Right, okay. Yeah, I liked the ending. I don't really know how else you would end this movie, because he'd completed his journey. He'd gone as far as he could go with that, and then realised that it was nothing, so he had to come back. I liked it. I thought the ending was really good. Did you have any issues with it?
Visually, I didn't love it. I think they did amazing things for the time, but I think it does age it very badly. I did a bit of reading up on this, actually, because apparently they achieved that using rotoscope mats, which I'd heard of, but I didn't know what they were. So I did a little bit of reading, and apparently it's basically just the act of tracing an object to like make a silhouette.
Okay.
So that you can take that object and then use it on a different background. So I don't know. It is still used today, but I don't know if that's something that's kind of replaced with green screen largely.
Yeah, okay.
Would they have done it that way? I don't know. But that's really my only beef with this film.
I quite liked it. I think in a movie like this, I think it works quite well. I don't fully understand
what was going on with her.
I sort of get it thematically, but it doesn't make sense within the reality of the film.
Okay. How does it make sense thematically?
Well, when he touches her and she starts turning into whatever it is.
Something from Hellraiser.
Like being of light or something.
Yeah.
Well, my take on it is that he's kind of got this far down this path, and he's starting to infect her, maybe.
Right. Yeah, because
so
she
getting
did
dragged
sort
into
of
it.
Start breaking down a little bit towards the end of the film, didn't she?
Yeah.
Because she was the academic. She had it all together, and then she's kind of almost a different person by the end.
Yeah.
Because she's so worried about him.
And she's a scientist as well, so she must be, as much as she wants William Hurt back, she must be really curious as well. Because like, if you came back to me and you're like, you never guess what happened today, I turn into a monkey. I'd be like, fuck, let's rerun that experiment. So she must have been really curious about it also.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe she's also been thinking about it a bit more, and that's kind of the angle they were coming from. I mean, it didn't make sense in the movie. Like, why would he touch her and she's turning into a volcano or something? I don't know. But yeah, I liked it though. And then it ended quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that. Because it kind of feels jarring in a way. And you kind of like, well, you kind of have to do a double take, go, what?
I would much rather an abrupt ending like that than these modern films that we keep getting when there are like 7 different fake out endings because they feel like they have to over explain everything.
Yeah. Give
me an abrupt ending any day of the week. Yeah. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I liked how this ended. I like this whole movie. It's not perfect. It has some issues. I would like to have seen, you know, the bit at the beginning where he's describing seeing the early humans.
Mm-hmm. This small, like 4 foot tall, like humanoids. Yeah.
I would like to have actually seen that. Maybe in his vision. We saw a lot of the visions that we saw of his were really trippy and weird, but I would really have liked to have seen that as a way to sort of maybe show you what is possible, like, and then when he turns into that thing later, you're like, oh, that was that thing from the beginning. I don't know, it just felt to me like I could have done with some more of that.
I'm going to respond to that by saying be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'll get that in the Jared Leto remake.
Yeah. There's no way that he's going to allow anyone to put makeup on his face, though.
I'm so glad that you included this in the lineup. I'm really happy that I finally watched it. And honestly, I think it's probably one that will end up in fairly regular rotation.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it will for me.
It's my second favourite Ken Russell movie.
It's my favourite Ken Russell movie.
I knew you were going to say that.
Out of the 2 that I've seen.
Awesome.
Yeah, so next week, should we talk about what's happening next week?
What's next week?
Well, next week, we're doing another movie that isn't about dreams.
Of course. Why would I ever suspect that it'd be about dreams?
But also, I've got a loose way of explaining it, not dissimilar to how I explained this one, actually.
Okay.
But we're doing, and because the Crow remake is coming out, or
Ugh.
will be out at the similar sort of time,
Sure.
we're talking Dark City, which is by Alex Proyas. Directed by
Okay.
Alex Proyas.
I haven't seen that since about 2001.
Oh, great. He obviously directed the original The Crow.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to watch The Crow tonight.
Sure.
And then we're going to watch Dark City and cover that next week.
I'm up for that.
Cool.